Hey everyone, welcome back to the Europats. If you're new here, we're Matt and Diane, and we are a couple in Texas planning our move to Europe next March. And right now, we've been seriously looking into Albania as part of that journey. Today, we wanted to sit down and have a really honest conversation about something that we've been thinking about a lot lately. What could actually go wrong? What could go wrong? Nothing's going to go wrong.
A
Nothing
lot of things can
ever
go
goes wrong
wrong.
for us. It's the curse of Diane. Everything is going to go wrong. But seriously, we don't want to talk about this in a negative way. We don't want to scare ourselves out of it or anything. We just want to have a real, let's think this through like grown adults kind of conversation because we don't live there. We haven't made the move yet, and we're still very much in the research phase. So obviously, this isn't coming from our experience. It's coming from trying to be thoughtful before making a big life decision. And honestly, the more that we've looked into this, the more we've realized how easy it is to focus on just the good things, like the cost of living, the scenery, the slower pace of life. And all of that is appealing. But we have been asking ourselves, what are we not seeing yet? What might be harder than we expect? Because we don't want to just fall in love with something and then be surprised later. Hey y'all, we're Matt and Diane. We're a U.S. couple planning to retire in France in 2030. But we found a way to start that journey 3 years earlier by starting in Albania. So we're taking our time, digging into each place, and learning what life there is really like. Come with us.
I think that it's really an important part of this whole process because a lot of what you see online is the highlight version of places. And that's not really wrong, but it's just not the full picture. And when you're making a decision like this, especially at our stage of life, you can't just look at the highlights. You have to look at the parts that might be uncomfortable too, parts that might be frustrating, the parts that don't show up in a 5-minute video. Because this isn't a trip for us, this is where we would actually live. And I don't think either one of us want to go into something like that thinking we'll just figure it out when we get there.
That's so us.
That is so us. And we have done that before. And at this point, we're a little bit more in the let's figure it out and before we get there phase.
One of the biggest things that could go wrong, and probably the easiest trap to fall into, is romanticizing the whole idea. Because from where we're sitting right now, it looks really appealing.
Yes.
You see the coastline, the mountains, the cafes, and it's very easy to start building this picture in your head of what life would feel like there. And I catch myself doing that sometimes. You start thinking, this would be so peaceful. This would be so simple. And maybe parts of it are, but I think what we have realized is that when you're looking at a place from a distance, you're only seeing a part of the picture. You're not seeing the everyday reality. You're not seeing what it's like when something doesn't go smoothly. You're not seeing what it feels like when something doesn't work the way that you expected it should. And I think one thing that could go wrong is getting emotionally attached to the idea before we really understand the reality.
And I feel that's where people can get caught off guard. Because when everything you're seeing is the best parts, it's easy to assume that's what life feels like all the time. But daily life is usually made up of the stuff nobody shows: running errands, figuring things out, dealing with problems you didn't expect. Nobody's filming the moment where you're sitting there thinking, okay, I have no idea how to fix this.
I'll film you doing that.
Yeah, you will. And I will be messing it up. And if you've already built this really polished version in your head, even small things can feel bigger than they actually are because they don't match what you expected. Another thing we've been looking at pretty closely is the legal side of all this. because one of the big reasons Albania comes up for Americans is because you can stay there for a full year without a visa. And when you first hear that, it sounds incredibly simple, like, okay, problem solved. But the more we've looked into it, the more we've realized that staying somewhere and building a life somewhere are two very different things. Because that 1 year is great, but what happens after that? Hmm. What happens if something changes? What happens if requirements shift? Now you're dealing with residency, paperwork, approvals, and none of that is guaranteed. And one thing that could go wrong is assuming that because the first step feels easy, everything else will be too.
And that's where we've had to slow ourselves down a bit because it's really easy to hear something like that and think, oh, this is simple. But when you start digging into it, it's not that it's impossible, it's just that it's more involved than it sounds at first. And for us, it's less about being worried and more about being realistic. We don't want to build a plan that only works if everything goes perfectly, as amazing as that would be. We want to understand what happens if something doesn't go as planned, because that's usually where the stress shows up. And we don't want stress because we'll be retired. We don't want stress.
And we don't want work.
No work. Another area we've been thinking about is the financial side and not just the obvious part. Because, yes, when you look at the numbers, it can look really appealing. Lower rent, lower everyday costs. But there's more to it than just the monthly expenses. There's the bigger picture: exchange rates, banking, moving money, travel back to the US, and then taxes. That's the dirty word.
Travel back.
That's a dirty word to see.
That's a dirty
But
word.
I think that one thing that could go wrong is focusing only on what looks cheaper and not thinking about what might be more complicated.
And that's a really important point because cheaper doesn't always mean simpler. Sometimes it means different. Different systems, different expectations, and things you didn't have to think about before suddenly matter. And sometimes you're trading one set of challenges for another.
Healthcare is another one where we've had to really slow down and think it through because it gets simplified a lot. You'll hear, oh, it's better. But then when you look more closely, it's more nuanced than that. And for us, this isn't just about cost, it's about access, it's about consistency, it's about what happens when something actually goes wrong.
And that's where location matters because access can vary depending on where you are. And that doesn't mean it's bad, it just means it's something you have to plan for. Because when you're retired, healthcare becomes part of your life. And assuming it will feel just as easy as what we're used to, that's probably where things could go wrong. Another thing we've been thinking about is what daily life actually looks like. Not the highlights, just normal life. And from far away, everything can feel easier than it really is.
And this is where expectations really matter because we both like the idea of a slower life, but slower can also mean less convenient. And that can either feel peaceful or frustrating, depending on the person.
I'll take the peaceful, please.
Give me the frustrating.
Okay. Let's talk about driving for a minute because I already have concerns. I don't want my retirement plan to include daily adrenaline.
No, we are trying to lower stress, not increase it. And if getting around feels difficult, that affects everything. Another thing is language because it's easy to say, we'll figure it out.
Until you actually have to figure it out. in a stressful situation.
I'm gonna mess things up.
Oh, we're both going to be butchering.
I'm gonna mess it up.
Well, I have a feeling that I'm going to probably say good morning whenever it's good afternoon, or good afternoon whenever it's good morning. I'll probably say yes and no when it's yes and no.
Yeah, I'm gonna mess it up so bad, y'all. Already know. I already know. It's gonna be a cluster.
Now, this one is probably the biggest one for us, and that is family.
Yeah, because we have a big one. And I think one thing that could go wrong is us underestimating how much we're going to miss that because we are going to miss it. I mean, we've got a lot of kids and a lot of grandkids.
11 grandkids.
So, and some of them are little.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's going to be hard. So, and our parents. Oh my gosh, our parents.
Well, I mean, we've got family everywhere. It's just going to be, we're away from them, and that's going to be hard.
Yeah, man, it's still going to suck. And then there's this. What happens if we get there and realize that it's not a good fit?
And that is a possibility. And being open to that is part of doing this the right way.
At least we know, right? That say Albania is not it. Our goal is France, right? France in 2030. That's our goal.
That's that's the goal.
That's the goal. So say that Albania is not a fit. At least it doesn't have to be, well, no place actually has to be forever. But we know that going in this, we know that right now this is a stepping stone for us. This is not permanent. So
That we know of.
that we know of. And I feel like that makes it easier for me to know, okay, well, if Albania is not it, I mean, could we deal with it for a couple of years till 2030 until we go to France? Absolutely, because
Oh,
we can take
definitely.
the trips over there to do our scouting trips. So I feel like even if Albania is, not a good fit for us, I feel like it's fine for now, for this season, until we
I,
get
I
where we want to go.
my personal feelings is since looking into it, it's going to be a very hard place to leave.
You never know.
I know. And
You
we
never
never
know.
say never anymore.
You never know because the idea of having a house in France in the countryside where we can drive if we need to, and I can have a garden and have peace like that, because that's my idea, at least right now, of peace is just gardening and just being, which I will not be able to do in Albania. There's only so much gardening you can do on a terrace, right? In an
Well,
apartment.
there are houses out there with land and everything, and and I understand that there are certain rules out there
Hmm.
about owning land that make it difficult.
Right.
But there's I mean, there's always the little bitty smaller gardens or
Yeah.
something like that if if there's around. But we just can't have the big acreage with orchards and stuff.
But anyway, so I mean, we know it doesn't have to be permanent. I'm not looking at this like it's a permanent move. Anyway, I'm looking at it as a stepping stone. Now, could that change once we get there? Absolutely. You
Definitely.
just don't know. But that's not where my head is at right now. So we'll see.
Okay.
Never say never.
So when we really step back and look at all of this, yeah, a lot could go wrong. But I don't think that that's the reason not to do it. I think it's a reason to do it carefully, to go into it with your eyes open, to ask better questions, and not to rush into something just because it looks good on the surface. Because at the end of the day, this isn't about finding something perfect, it's about finding something that actually works for our life.
And I think that's exactly where we are right now. We're still excited about the possibility, but we're also trying to stay grounded. We're trying to be honest about what we don't know yet. And we're trying to make sure that if we do this, that we're doing it for the right reasons.
I'm trying to stay grounded. It's hard.
Closer it gets to March.
Yes. I am looking forward to retirement.
You know, Rob escaped to Frank Charant. If y'all don't watch him, you should. He's hilarious. He made a comment on our live the other day that it feels real once you get, like, when you're at work and then you get an invite to something, or you have to schedule something for next year, and you get to say, I won't be here. I don't have to do that. I don't have to sign up for that because I'm not going to be here. I don't have to do that continuing ed anymore because I won't be here. So that's when it
Oh, that's
feels
true.
real.
I won't have my continuing education.
Hmm.
I won't have to be going to qualify.
No,
I won't have to be getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning. That's gonna be nice.
we ain't got to do nothing. It's exciting.
Yes.
No work. We don't want to be doing this because it looks good online, but because it actually fits our life.
Our life.
Yeah. So we would really love to hear from you. What would be your biggest concern about moving abroad? And if you have spent time in Albania, what do you think people researching from afar might not fully understand yet? Because I'm sure there is a lot that we don't understand yet.
Yeah, please, if you do live over there, we will take in all the information that you can give us.
Any advice at all? Do you have any advice for tummy troubles? Someone gets sad. Oh.
All I'm getting out of this here is like,
Oh, well. And if this information has helped you at all, please don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you can be notified of when our next video will be out, which will be next Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Central. And also, we have a live every Sunday at 1 p.m. Central. Bring your drinks, bring your snacks. It's in the name. You have to do it. And we have a great live. We have lots of great people. We have a good time. Matt, we'll sing from time to time. So you never know you never know. That's just it. That's basically what I'm trying to say. You never know what's going to happen on our live.
true.
You just don't know what's going to come out of our mouth. You can also support us over on our Patreon page, even though that is free. We have lots of insider notes over there. There's videos of me cooking, baking, Matt eating, you name it. There's all kinds of good information over there. You can also buy us a coffee if you wish. You can also become a member of this channel by clicking the link below. Also, we have merch. So if you feel so led, please check out our merch store.
And we really do learn a lot from you guys, and we appreciate every one of you being here.
Absolutely. And you guys have a great week. We'll see you next Saturday morning at 10. Bye,
Bye
y'all.
bye.